Good morning, students, and welcome to your 7th standard history. So, this year's history, we will be starting directly with the second chapter. The first chapter is more of an introductory chapter towards history, and since we already done history in great deal of detail in your last year 6th standard, this year we will start directly where we left off in your 6th standard. In your 6th standard, we ended history with the Gupta Empire. We saw some of the greatest rulers of Indian history in the Gupta period, and we saw all the beautiful architecture that they had created for us, and we had seen how the great scholars were also present during that particular period of Indian history. So, coming next to your 7th standard history, we will start with New Kings and Kingdoms. Now, the name of this chapter, New Kings and Kingdoms, is of particular importance because why do you think they have given this name as New Kings and Kingdoms? What is wrong? Were the Guptas old kings and now we are talking about new kings? The reason for this name for your chapter is after this glorious period of the Gupta Empire, there was a long period in Indian history where there was no significant or very important ruler in India. There were various small dynasties who would come and go. There was lots of fighting between these dynasties, and ultimately no strong ruler or no major ruler who ruled the entire expanse of India in the way in which Samudragupta had ruled, which you had learnt in your last year. I hope everybody has is able to recollect that. If you are not able to recollect, please, if you are having the textbooks, go back to it, just go through again, and then you can refresh your memories. But that is the reason why we are giving this chapter this name as New Kings and Kingdoms, because it's a new age for India, a new set of dynasties which were never there earlier before, new kinds of rulers, new kinds of administrations, new ways in which the kingdoms were run. All these things were very new and being implemented for the first time. And many of these kingdoms, some of the administrative ideas which were implemented in these kingdoms still continue to be used in bits and pieces in present administrations also. That is how popular, or that is how you know new types of ideas they were. The appearance of new dynasties. There were appearances of new kings and kingdoms in different regions of the Indian subcontinent. There were big landlords and war chiefs by the 7th century. So, apart from the kings and the small dynasties which were ruling in different parts of India, there were many big landlords and warrior chiefs who were very important. They were very popular and they were very powerful in their particular locations in different parts of India. And these people slowly started gaining more and more importance because they had large amounts of territory under their control, and these warrior chiefs, they used to directly be subordinate to the king. Subordinate to the king meaning they were almost as popular or as powerful as the king. Even though they had to report to the king, they had to give an account of their kingdoms to the king, but they were directly under the control of the king and were as popular and as powerful as the king. They were called as Samantas. Now, this Samantas is a Sanskrit word wherein Samanta means almost on a same level. That is the meaning of this word Samanta. That is the reason why these Samantas slowly started becoming more powerful, and the more powerful they became, they were almost in a position to take the power away from the king himself. That is how powerful these Samantas became in India. The kings received lots of gifts from these Samantas, and the kings also received military support from these Samantas. So the military was not directly under the control of the king, but the kings used to leave the military in the control of the Samantas, and the Samantas would take care of the military, and whenever any attack or any battle or war would be there, the Samantas would do the work for the kings. So once the war was over, the battle was over, the territory would come under the rule of the victorious king. So that is how the territories and how the kingdoms were operating during this 7th century. Now it so happens is these Samantas started becoming so powerful, they started expanding and creating their own dynasties by overthrowing the smaller kings. And if you see the map in front of you, you will see how the dynasties were distributed in different parts of India. Right from the top northernmost parts of India, you can see over here there were the Chahamanas in the parts of Rajasthan and central India. Then there were the Gurjara Pratiharas in the majority part of north central India. Then there were the Palas towards the eastern side, and coming down a little bit lower, we have the Rashtrakutas in present day Maharashtra, and then little more below we have the Cholas, who were extremely powerful, and they had introduced very new and different types of thinking and different types of administrative measures. There still down below we have the Cheras and the Pandyas. So these were the major big dynasties which were ruling the major parts of India. So let us look at what kind of administration was there in this kingdom, what made them so special. The king at the top of the hierarchy accepted and held big titles like Maharaj, Adiraj, Maharaja Raja. So all these kinds of names, no, they used to give themselves these titles so that they would look more and more powerful. When they were referred to, people would think that, oh my God, this is such a big king, such a huge, popular person, must be having lots and lots of wealth with him. So these big titles they were giving themselves. These mighty kings shared their power with the Samantas and with an association of peasants. So the kings shared the power with the Samantas. This is a very important part in the lesson which you need to remember is the Samantas were as powerful as the kings themselves. There were many producers who were convinced to surrender. See, now what happens is the struggle between these dynasties, the fight between these dynasties was mainly a fight for controlling more and more parts of India. And it so happened during the course of the war, if the opposite dynasty were to lose, then obviously they had to give up the fight, they had to surrender to the victorious king. And the resources were usually obtained from whatever was produced by the peasants. When they used these resources to establish the king financially and for the construction of temples and forts, therefore, these resources were important. During this particular period in Indian history, the kings built plenty of temples and forts. We have seen this building of temples and forts even during the Gupta period, wherein some very beautiful architecture was given to India by this dynasty. Similarly, in the dynasties that followed, also whatever amount was won by the king financially in the course of battle, in the course of war, most of the money was given for the constructions of temples and forts. So these are the most of the important things which were done during the administration in these kingdoms. Now the warfare, the battles that were won, that were fought, these were mainly for wealth and mainly for acquiring more territory. It was not any kind of enmity between these two dynasties. It was mainly for acquiring more and more territory. And in this particular era, period in history, we have the tripartite struggle. Tripartite struggle means there are three dynasties which were involved in this fight, and this fight was mainly for the control of the Indus Valley, mainly for the control of the northern plains in the Indian geography, which is a very fertile part of India, very good for agriculture. This part of India was, and that is the reason why there was a lot of struggle and a lot of fight which happened in this particular geography of India. This tripartite struggle, the three dynasties which were involved were the Gurjara Pratihara, the Rashtrakutas, and the Palas. They fought over the control of the Kannauj region, which we now know as the northern plains. Is in earlier parts in history it was called as the Kannauj region. You can go back to the map earlier, we'll go back to the map earlier, and you can see where the Gurjara Pratiharas, the Rashtrakutas and the Palas were. Yes, back to the map over here, you can see that the Gurjara Pratiharas mainly predominantly in the north central part of India. Just above that, you can see the small Kannauj region over there. And in the eastern, we have the Palas over there and the Rashtrakutas little bit below over here in the Maharashtra region. So these were the three parties, three dynasties which were involved in the tripartite struggle. This was a long drawn conflict. It was a war which went on for many years, and finally, this conflict. So this was a very long drawn conflict, as I was saying, and this went on for many years. And surprisingly, there was no winner in this particular conflict. What happened was these three dynasties fought this war for such a long time. They became very weak. They spent so much of money in their resources and on the warfare that slowly and slowly all the three dynasties became weaker and weaker, and this is something which actually led to their decline. They slowly went away from India. Their rule from India was almost over. And this was the time when Afghan king Sultan Muhammad of Ghazni raided the subcontinent. He raided the northern parts of India and started looting most of the temples. Now, Sultan Muhammad of Ghazni had no intention of ruling India. He only came to India for its wealth. And every time he came to India, he would loot lots of temples, loot lots of dynasties, lots of kingdoms, loot the people, and go back to his place. That is Afghan. That is the reason why this particular raids which were conducted by Sultan Muhammad of Ghazni, they are important because most of the kingdoms and dynasties lost a lot of their wealth to Sultan Muhammad of Ghazni. The warfare for wealth, the struggle. So Sultan Muhammad of Ghazni looted various temples. Some of the famous temples which he looted was the Somnath temple, which was Gujarat, and other kings like Chauhan were also engaged in warfare. They ruled over the region around Delhi and Ajmer. Prithviraj Chauhan is one of the most popular rulers or kings of the Chauhan dynasty, and they were predominantly ruling in the Delhi and Ajmer region of India. The Chauhans were engaged in conflict with the Chalukyas of Gujarat and the Gahadalwas of western Uttar Pradesh. Prithviraj III was a popular Chauhan ruler, and in 1191 he defeated Afghan ruler Ghori, which was a very long drawn battle. And however, in the year 1192 he lost to the same Afghan ruler whom he had defeated earlier. So these were, a time in history wherein there are so many wars, so many battles, mainly fought for wealth. There were constant raids by the rulers of Afghanistan, and they mainly raided India for the wealth which was there in the Indian temples. Right. So up till now, what we have done in this lesson is we took an introduction. We learned about the different dynasties which arose in India after the Gupta dynasty. After the decline of the Gupta dynasty, there was a long period wherein there were no major dynasties, and then we have come to a part in Indian history during the 7th century wherein there were different dynasties distributed in different parts of India, and most of these dynasties, the three major dynasties in the north central part of India, were engaged in the tripartite struggle for the Kannauj region of India. And it was during this part in Indian history wherein we had lots of constant raids by Afghani rulers. They came to India for the wealth which was there in India. They fought and they looted India and took plenty of treasures from the temples in India. So till now, I want you all to please read your textbooks. We have new textbooks this time, that is from Macmillan Footprints. So the content is the same as it was in NCERT, but the textbooks are more attractive, more colorful, more content in that, and more interactive. So please go through your textbooks, read your textbooks to whatever we have done till now, and we will meet once again in the next video.